A carer. And just to add to that bit, because it's not properly written on this, I come from sort of two communities because we worship in Great Barton and there is a community cafe there which has been very supportive. And we live in Hessett because we had to move away due to the circumstances. And actually, when my husband went walkabout, one member of the house group that we don't actually belong to, we just know the Christians in the community, it's not just Christians actually, who have been helpful. They actually contacted everybody who was on their house group list, and it meant that everybody kept a watch out for my husband, but more of that will be revealed as I start. So we have sort of kind of got some support, but right, so I'm here to outline what being a carer entails for me and how it affects me and my family. To introduce myself, I'm Debbie, I'm 49 now, and my husband's 58. We have 3 boys, the youngest and most affected now being 20 and still at university. I'm a qualified nurse, although not practicing, and also qualified in childcare. My husband is now a retired teacher. Our day. I have had to give up regular work. I can be out for sort of 2.5 hours maximum, and I ring in regularly. You've probably just seen me walking up and down to the library because that's where he is. I will try to make activities obvious for him. I used to write down as well as tell him where I've gone, but he won't remember and won't remember to read the notes I make. He doesn't know where I have gone. He feels safe in the house though. He can occupy himself reading or playing guitar for a while, but if I've got home, he's sometimes wandering around lost and aimless. His moods get very low, and if I'm out for long, even with me ringing in, he's lost. He can't plan. He relies on me to extend his activity outside the house. He will walk the dogs, but in all else, I take the lead. I have lost some of my family support as my very fit 80-year-old mum died suddenly after 4 months illness this March with cancer of the pancreas. One of our friends finds it hard now to be with him much on his own, although he and his wife are very good friends of ours, and together we can do activities. I have lost contact at present with my brother due to my mum dying. I do have a sister and some good friends. My coffee mate has just lost her husband to cancer, although he had Alzheimer's. This association was made through Suffolk Family Carers. Thank you, Judith. This friendship will still continue, but she is moving away to start a fresh life and work. So I've lost quite a few people just in the last few months again. Last year, my husband exploded, "I don't want to be babysat. This is now getting harder as he gets so low and can't remember from one moment to the next." We purchased a motor caravan, so he has another area where he feels safe, giving us and me more independence. We have moved the allotment to the house, so it means hopefully that he can see a job that needs doing, like pulling up a weed. It doesn't take the planning and energy that an allotment takes. We used to get him to use his iPod to take pictures so he can remember an event. The idea of this being that it will infill what he can't remember. This isn't working well now. The other day we went to Holt. I had taken a picnic, but he saw a cafe and decided we should go to eat there. I allowed him to take control and follow through his idea. That evening I showed him a picture of him having his dinner, and he had no memory of the cafe. We then went on to another shop just to look around, and he started saying, "Well, we'd better get going to wherever we're going." And I had to say, "Well, this is what we're doing." Might not. We got to a material shop, and while I looked around, he sat on the wall outside. He tires very easily. He then set his heart on some material that we could have for our Christmas tablecloth. Having only just acquired a cloth from a card boot sale, I suggested we had it for serviettes. He agreed and purchased, with my help, as card numbers are a problem, the material and the few trimmings I selected. When we got home, I got our purchases out to show our son. My husband had no memory of the purchase. I started cutting out serviettes in the other room from him, crying for 2 days with sadness that he couldn't remember. Something is important to him, it's something for Christmas. In all other events, trying to think for 2 people is very hard. whether it is photos, purchases, or trying to follow the guidelines given by the training day the Suffolk family carers provide. These were very helpful, but it is so hard. Loss of memory for recent events. After Christmas and New Year, we were Skyping our 21-year-old when my husband asked, "Are you coming home for Christmas?" His brother and family stayed for 2 nights just before Christmas. My husband still expecting them after Christmas. He remembered there was a plan, but didn't remember it had happened. Medicines. I have to remind him to take his tablets, but saving him asking what day is it, I tend to say, it's tablet time, Tuesday. He still puts his tablets into his dispenser, but I have to watch over him very carefully. And if he gets confused by it, then I have to sort it out. New tablets need more careful monitoring. Equipment. We have had issues with equipment. We did have Skype. He couldn't remember how to deal with Skype going wrong, and I would find all the wires pulled out and equipment everywhere. We now just have normal TV, and there are certain buttons that if not pressed mean you can't turn it on or get guide. I have to come and sort it out each time. This is so frustrating for him. A conversation I had with someone in a similar situation last year said her husband acted as an 8-year-old. We definitely get regression moments, and he spends most of his time talking about being at school when he was about 8, 10. Attitudes. This is bizarre because things you ironed out in your relationship surface again, like attitudes and approaches to each other, and they all return. There is an issue where he can get bored, but he can't do much about it, as he can't plan and can't do things independently. He thinks we are disagreeing or arguing when we are not, and gets very upset. He fusses a lot, which I don't react well to. I have to move the items to stop him talking about it and ask me what to do with them or it. If I had the brain space and time, I would be able to answer him or do it myself. He can come across as verbally aggressive at times, shouting as though he is in a classroom, maybe, being a teacher. Not at home, though, so far. I find myself apologising or covering up for him in a shop. Effects on the family. Our last son is in his final year at university. He is suffering from extreme anxiety and depression. He is accepting help now, whereas 3 years ago he wouldn't accept it, re his dad and the Alzheimer's diagnosis. This is another pressure on us. Over the summer I have occupied my husband in the morning and my son in the afternoon, and tried to help him to go where people are. Our son will be coming home regularly now. Hopefully the two of them just met up. Life direction. In 2011 I was looking to go back to nursing, but life had changed direction, and my place I felt was next to my husband, who had depression. I still think this is my place, but I have days when I see life going before me. I wonder about my own fulfilment. I could have been a free agent while he was working, following my own career, dedicated to it without thinking about school pickups. I could have been bringing in lots of money, not that money is everything. All the what-ifs aren't going to help, so you feel a bit trapped. I don't feel bitter or resentful, but just deprived that I will probably have reached an age where a career will be out of the question by the time I can no longer look after him. We both feel like that TV programme titled Waiting for God. We do have so much we can enjoy. We are now financially secure due to my husband's teacher's pension. The memory of the ever-decreasing money still lasts from pre-diagnosis. No help or understanding from authorities, and having to sell up, and only remaining buoyant because family poured money into us until the teacher's lump sum became available to pay them back once he finally got diagnosis. All those years of earning would otherwise have slipped away until we had paid all into rent before the state would have chipped in. We are the lucky ones and are grateful for being buoyant, but it doesn't take the waiting for God, stuck, trapped pathway not our own. We do try. Travel. We have travelled. In 2014, we went to Lundy Island, hiring accommodation for a week for our 25th wedding anniversary. We go off in our camper van. We travelled the coast of Scotland in October 2013, both driving with fantastic weather, and some with Southern Ireland in 2011. In June this year, we did the lower east coast from the Wash. Our aim was to get to Staithes to see the cliff formation. My husband's a geographer. Bird watching on the way. We reached here on the 12th day. So we walked into the village and looked. Then my husband said, "I want to go home now." The sat-nav said 4 hours, but in the van it's much slower. So 7 hours later, we arrived home. Only I was driving on this trip due to his vision problems. The dementia nurse at Addenbrooke said he shouldn't drive until assessed. This made him feel very angry and useless throughout the holiday. So his mood wasn't great. We are now visiting the Norfolk coast. By design, we did the furthest points of the country first. We always tried to set up camp by 4, as he would get anxious otherwise. This anxiety has increased. He feels lost in unfamiliar places, even with the van being familiar, which is why we originally designed holidays around it. Even on the Norfolk coast, we can walk 500 yards to the shop, but he won't walk further. We have just worked out that he has no concept of time, so wouldn't want to walk too far in case he was too tired to get back. At home, he will walk, but his walks are getting shorter. He is now saying his legs make him feel like he is wading through snow. He is complaining of seeing different colours. He has seen waving while he was driving and I had to take over. He has seen people standing next to him, which I think he had transferred from a picture in a book he was looking at. He can't remember where he is in the night or where the loo is or the light is. I think our camping times are drawing to a close. Driving. Well, he was driving and then these sight things started. He couldn't drive without me anyway, as he couldn't remember where we were going or what we were doing when we got there, as proved when we were both taking the two vehicles to the garage half a mile down the road, and he stopped to find out where we were going. The test. The doctor said he must have a safety test. I drove him to Sudbury. They failed him. I drove him, so he was angry with me. They failed him, so he was angry with them. He made up what he thought had happened and was angry, because how could they know? He added bits in that are said in driving tests for youngsters, failed to make adequate progress. It was like they were a conspiracy. To be honest, I was and I am quite relieved. It's not my responsibility now, but it does mean I have to do the driving. Anger following the safety driving test. So we got home and I was talking to a friend on the phone outside. Our eldest son was at home. I was in the garden and heard the garage door open. When I finished on the phone, I went to check on my husband. I couldn't see him. Our son thought he was in the bedroom. The dogs were still there. We looked everywhere. We found his wallet and phone. I then began to really worry. He'd been in the garage. He wasn't there though. I got in the car and I went to our pub explaining that he was missing and leaving my mobile phone number. I went to some friends and one of them drives to the other end of the field from where I am going to walk. My big fear is that he has taken a rope. This would be totally out of character, but he has never gone walkabout before either and never been so angry with me, as it turned out. I showed a picture of him to anybody I came across as I walked. The blanket fear carried in me as I walked. As I met our friend in the field, a call came from the pub saying my husband was there. Fortunately, I introduced my husband to the publican the week before and explained his condition. I had already asked for my husband to be given anything if he wanted it until I arrived. Our son had gone to meet him. He had a plate of sandwiches and a pint. He looked awful and almost didn't want to know me. This was 2 hours of hell. One comment he made later was that he just wanted to do something for himself. Also that I was to blame as I had taken him to the driving test. The next morning, he disappeared again at 8 a.m. He had got his phone this time. I just managed to catch him to give him his phone. I went shopping to continue with the necessary day-to-day life. I decided to give him space, so I left it until 12 o'clock. I rang, he didn't answer. I then rang the credit cards to see if he had made any transactions, as friends had reported seeing him walking towards Thurston. I feared he may have got on the train to London. This is how I cope with all this illness, trying to preempt and plan strategies. I had been sorting the garage but feeling very sad and not knowing what was going to happen next with him. He rang at 1 p.m. saying he was on his way back. The next day it rained, so he stayed in, but it was not at all happy. The following day he cleared off again at 10 a.m, but with his phone. At 2 p.m. he rang, saying he was tired and lost, but had got himself back to Woolpit, so would I pick him up? He didn't know the way home, which was 2 miles away. I had managed to book him into Headway for counselling. This had really helped just before Christmas, 6 months previous. This session really helped. Ipswich have formed a Dementia men's coffee group for those who have just stopped driving. They've also formed a music group for all Headway clients. This is in Woodbridge. It is 45 minutes to get there, but he loves it. It has been really hard to find anything he will accept. That is not just him being awkward. A lot of the groups really are not right for him. He doesn't want to be in a group where he will see what he will be like. He needs to be in a group where he can see people's names and, more importantly, know who is in charge by label or uniform. He also needs to be in a session where he understands what is going on and what he's meant to do. That may not be for want of some groups trying very hard with him, but his memory and understanding and interpretation of words are a problem. 2.5 years after diagnosis, we seem to have begun to crack it. He goes to a private art teacher 1.5 hours, for 3 weeks of the month, where he has a one-to-one session. He gets teacher-to-teacher conversation and an expert art guidance, and then he'll do his own thing, which is fine. He walks back from art, giving him some independence. He goes to music in Woodbridge once a week, where, again, I get another 1.5 hours break. This follows us attending the first half of the community cafe through our church, where actually there are a few other carers, but everything seems to be on a Wednesday. We have just hit gold by trying out the Gatehouse, I hope I got the name right, Gatehouse group, which he felt very comfortable in. We have tried 5 other activities previous to these, so it is not for want of trying. We hope we are finally getting somewhere. I am still short of a long session to myself of leaving him somewhere. Research. We go up to Cambridge to participate in research, which makes him feel better. My support. We had a support worker, which was great. She was then told she couldn't do this role, but just be a dementia advisor, so she left. We discovered that someone else was our dementia advisor, but she had made no contact. But when I phoned her, my husband's driving and the issues of his sight, I got no answer. We found out they didn't exist anymore. Nobody had told us. So I then rang Adam Brooks, dementia advisor, for advice, as we had just found out we could do this. This is a phone-in, though, not a two-way line support. Following my mum's illness and death, I called crisis to the social workers as I wasn't coping. Everything with Mum had been messy and it had split us siblings up. I had done the brunt of the work for Mum. The hospital care was appalling. I looked for social worker support, but my husband and I found we didn't have a designated social worker, although earlier on in the year we had told we did. This is because we are self-funding. This means they don't know us. They put us onto the NHS dementia team. The team did what they felt they could for us and said the books were closed, so no one has checked on how we are doing up to this day. They put us onto the team did, I was needing some time out. I got a day, but my husband wasn't happy where they took him, and he refused to go back. I tried twice after that, but so Suffolk Family Carers have a volunteer who rings fortnightly, which is good, but you can't replace a professional. To help myself, I started going to Pilates and have accessed St Nicholas Hospice for the counselling. I have bent over backwards to provide an access for my husband. I've realised recently I can't fill the void that teaching has left him with. I hope this gives you a flavour of my being a carer, a memory, driver, support, reassurer, accessor to facilities, groups, doctors, medication, reassuring with nightmares and tears of helplessness that he has, shopper, cooker with him being my sous chef cutting up vegetables, financial person, friend, lover, wife and mother.